Hey, hello, welcome back, and I'm really glad to see you. Today I'm going to narrate all about my time in Europe this summer, and I'm going to do that by showing you all of the postcards, that I collected from each city that I visited. I was very lucky to be able to visit 15 different countries, and lots of cities in each of those countries. And I was able to collect postcards from most of the cities that I visited, but not all of them. And some cities I got more than one postcard, so I'll show you those. This might take a little while, so if you're looking for some good background noise while you do something else, this will be good for that. If you want to see all the pictures of the postcards from the trip, I will be showing those here. So just get comfy, get some tea or water or coffee or something if you're just chilling. And I'm going to jump into it because this could take a little while, but I'm going to try to only rant about each city for just a little bit, maybe one or two facts about each one. Otherwise, this could get a little bit lengthy. So the first one that I have to show you, we landed in the city of Keflavik in Iceland first, but we just left there right away because that's where the airport is, and we drove into the city of Reykjavik, and this is like the central part of the city, and it has this lovely church right in the middle, and this church is actually even more grand in person. The picture doesn't really capture how large this is, but I actually really loved this church a lot more than I expected. So our time in Reykjavik was just a few days, and mostly we traveled around to other like really small parts of the surrounding area of Reykjavik, going to hot springs and doing hikes and things like that. So I have lots of stories from Iceland, but it was my first time there and it was lovely. After we spent 3 days in Iceland, we took a flight to Birmingham in the UK. We were able to stay one night there, but unfortunately I didn't grab a postcard. But the next day we took a bus from Birmingham to London, and honestly I kind of hate this postcard. It's got this like horrible texture because it's kind of like one of those 3D image things. It actually looks a lot better on camera here than it does in person. In person, it makes me go a little bit cross-eyed. So I actually got this in Dover on our way out of London, because I forgot to get one in London, but I was able to find just this one that said London on it still. Oh look, you can see the London eye like flickering in the background. So this was actually my 4th time visiting London. I won't get into why, but it was my least favorite visit there because things have changed quite a bit from what I remember. So it's not my favorite city anymore, but I liked what we got to do outside of London, like going to these gardens, which was just past Stonehenge, so about 2 hours from London, and we went to these gardens with one of the very famous sets from Pride and Prejudice. So I got to see that, and that was amazing. It was the best. So we were in the UK for 4 days, and then we took a bus from London all the way to Belgium to go to the city, one of the cities I was most looking forward to in the world, really, which was the city of Bruges. and in Dutch it is Brugge, or something close to that. But this city is also a set to probably my favorite film of all time, which is called In Bruges. And I was able to find a postcard. I actually looked for a while for like the perfect one from Bruges. They didn't have a ton of great options, but the reason I chose this one was because you get the nice view of the canal, and you can see Belfry Tower here, which is right in the center of the square. Very famous part of the town, and an iconic set for the film. And actually, this hotel right here is the one where the main characters are staying in the film. It's very, very expensive, so I didn't get to stay there, but I got to stay close by. And the whole town is quite small, so it didn't take too long to explore the whole thing. But I could probably talk for an entire day about how much I loved Bruges. It did not let me down at all. And I did make a walking tour of the whole town, or the main parts of the town. And you can watch that on my channel as well, if you'd like. It was lovely. Now, there's a bit of a gap between Bruges and the next postcard. In summation, we spent the next 6 days. After 4 days in Bruges, 4 days in Bruges, we took a bus to the Netherlands and went to Rotterdam, because that's where TwitchCon was being hosted for the EU this year. And yeah, we were in Rotterdam for 4 days, and then we went to a town pretty close to Amsterdam, but we had been to Amsterdam once before and wanted to skip it and do something else this time. So we went to Utrecht, and the entire 6 days in the Netherlands for this block of time, I did not get a single postcard. I kept forgetting and procrastinating it, and I didn't get one. But it's okay. We try to go to the Netherlands as much as we can because our friend lives there, so there was evidence that I was there. After that, we took a train to Amsterdam and didn't do anything there, but we rented a car, and we started a very long leg of our trip by driving, and we drove into Germany and all the way south to Düsseldorf, which is kind of like the central western side of Germany. We stayed there for one night. I didn't get a postcard because it was just kind of a stopover city, but the next morning we went to the city of Cologne, or Köln in German, and this city is very famous for the cathedral in the middle. It's this huge, ominous Gothic cathedral, and we had an amazing breakfast there that morning as well. And although we spent just a couple hours there, it was a very nice city from what we got to see. Then later that same day, we decided, hey, Luxembourg is like not that far, and that would be such a random place to go. So we drove into the very, very tiny country of Luxembourg. This is probably the ugliest postcard in the collection. I'm really not a fan of postcards that have like these collages like that. I like a postcard that looks like a piece of art in its own sense, or a piece of really good photography, but I think it looks really cluttered if there's like a bunch of stuff on there. But yeah, I think we spent a grand total of an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours in Luxembourg, and we really didn't do much because it's very expensive, but I heard that public transit there is completely free, and unfortunately heard about that after we visited, so we didn't get to try it. But yeah, it feels very cool to have set foot in Luxembourg for a little bit, and it was pristinely clean and very lovely. And then we drove back into Germany same day, and went all the way down to a very, very small town called Baden-Baden. Baden-Baden. And conversely, this is one of my favorite postcards from my collection, I think. I just love the way that this one is designed. And Baden-Baden is famous for its spas, or they advertise them as thermal baths, but I don't know if any of them are like naturally hot from thermal activity or anything. I think they're more just like a spa pool. And we only spent one night there, but we got in kind of late, so we just took it easy the first night. And then the next morning, we got to go to a spa and then just explore the city after. It was lovely. My favorite memory, and probably one of the favorite things from Germany for sure, maybe even from the trip, was that at the spa, because there's like an indoor-outdoor part to it, you can swim through this little plastic thing to the outside and then be in the hot tubs and all the whirlpool things that are outdoors. And then it started raining and it was so magical. I loved it. So I really liked Baden-Baden. So then after we went to the spa and explored the town, we drove all the way to Switzerland, into the city of Basel, which is just across the border. We did spend one night there and went into town really briefly that evening, but I didn't get a postcard because there weren't really any other shops around or open when we got there. And then we left early the next morning for the city of Bern, Schweiz. So Bern is actually the capital of Switzerland, which as a geography geek, I was like, why didn't I know that? But alas, it's the capital. And my memories from there were the very beautiful, like aqua turquoise water in the river around the old town of the city. And we went to a bar that was in like this hole in the ground, and the lady working there was super nice. And yeah, Bern was very short as well, but a very cute city. Good memories. So that's Bern. And then we drove to the city where we were going to spend 4 nights for our time in Switzerland. And it was called the Kandersteg. And you'll notice that these postcards kind of match. It looks like Switzerland's got a bit of a stylistic choice going on for their postcards. So this is the one that I got from Kandersteg, which I had never heard of before, but we wanted to stay as close as possible to Grindelwald, which was one of the main places we wanted to visit. And this is all that was available on short notice, and I'll explain why that ended up being the best part a little bit later. So we didn't do much in Kandersteg the first day we were there. We got up early to go to Grindelwald as we had planned. Another kind of matching stylistic postcard. So Grindelwald is quite famous for its views and a lot of outdoor activities and some like extreme sports you can do, like hang gliding and caving, bungee jumping, all that kind of stuff. And we got to explore a cave and take the gondolas up to, I think it's called First Walk, and then did like a 2-hour hike to a lake up there, and it was gorgeous. Like the backdrop is one of those things, like the view there is one of those things you have to see to believe, because all the videos and photos we have just look like there's a green screen behind us. It's like so ridiculously gorgeous. So only complaint is that it is extremely touristy and expensive there, but lovely experience, and we got great weather. And then I got a second postcard from Kandersteg, which doesn't match the other ones, but I got this one because the next day we got to explore and do activities in Kandersteg. And we actually went up this mountain, this gondola way, and we hiked all the way up there and arrived at an even more beautiful lake than the one in Grindelwald, in my opinion. And it had this gorgeous waterfall, and we took a rowboat from the one side of the lake to the other side with the waterfall. It was crazy. And there was cows roaming around everywhere. Gorgeous weather again, so lucky. And then we got to take the gondola back down the mountain. And this was definitely one of my favorite days of the trip. So, Kandersteg, never heard of it before, and it was amazing. So, the next morning, we got up and explored the town in Kandersteg a bit, and started our drive out of Switzerland and stopped by Iseltwald on the way, which is like a really tiny lakeside town. No postcard from there, unfortunately, because then we started our drive through the Alps, and yeah, I can't really summarize how crazy that was. Being like this close to huge glaciers was nuts. And then we hit some really brutal traffic going out of there, out of Switzerland and into Italy, which we kind of made the decision to go there like halfway through the Switzerland trip. And I had never really been stoked to go to Italy. It was just so common and popular that I thought, well, like how good could it possibly be? So I'm going to walk you through all of our Italian destinations because we spent, I think, 4 full days in Italy. So we arrived that night and we were staying in a city just east of Milan, which I'll get to in a second. But we just crashed for the night, woke up the next day and drove to Lago di Como, Como Lake, and Bellagio is one of the cities or little towns around Lake Como. This was not my favorite place. It was very beautiful, but incredibly tight and just all tourists. And yeah, it was just like a little too hot for my liking that particular day. And because it was so crowded, it's hard to fight for shade. But my favorite part was I got to sit in a restaurant close to the beach and totally shaded, and I had, no joke, the best spaghetti I've ever had. I was like, how good can it be? Like, it's just pasta. Best spaghetti I've ever had. And this lovely like lavender alcoholic beverage. It was divine. So I had a good time, but it's not the kind of place I would go back to. And then the next day, we explored the city that we were staying in, which is Bergamo. So this city I had saved for ages because it is one of the locations where the film Call Me By Your Name was filmed. And so I just had it on my radar, and I was like, it's close to Milan and I have no interest in Milan. Maybe it will be better in Bergamo. And yeah, I had like expectations because of what I had seen in the film, but it far exceeded them. It was the most Italian city, almost no tourists. Everyone was lovely, and it has this part of the city called Città Alta, which is much higher in elevation than the rest, and that's where all the like old town area is, and beautiful cathedrals, shops, restaurants, everything. It was so nice. And yeah, so we hiked up to Città Alta, and it started pouring rain, but it was beautiful. And yeah, I can't say enough positive things about Bergamo, but I'm trying to keep this short. So the next place, which we went on the same day, we explored Bergamo in the morning, and then we drove 1 hour south to actually the main locations, or the city with the most amount of locations of the film. And I was so stoked to be there and see so many familiar scenes, and we got to ride bikes all the way to one of the lakes that was featured in the film and just enjoy the city. It was even more quaint than Bergamo. Barely any tourists, except for lots of tourists for this film still, even though it's like 7 years old. So funny. And I completely forgot to get a postcard, but then we bumped into this tour guide guy that does tours of all the sets where the film takes place, and he just handed this to me for free, which is a very famous shot from the film. And on the back it says Crema, somewhere in northern Italy, and that's like the opening title in the film, because it doesn't explicitly say that it takes place in Crema, so Crema is now just referred to as somewhere in northern Italy, which I think is really cute. So I did get a postcard from Crema, and it's a very special one. We drove back to Bergamo, and then the next morning we made our way to Sirmione, and this is the like castle at the entrance to the old town. And then at the very northern part of this like jut of land on another lake, there's Jamaica Beach, and this whole area was incredibly touristy and crowded, but I just preferred it to Lake Como's area, and I can't really put my finger on why. I also heard of this city from the film, from Call Me By Your Name as well, but Jamaica Beach has these like ruins on it that are in the film, and we didn't get to see them because there was a pretty steep entrance fee, but just being around the area was very cool. But lots to see around there, also incredibly touristy, but I just enjoyed it more. I don't know why. Then we drove to Verona later that afternoon and crashed just outside the city for a while, and then got up the next morning, and this day was crazy. So we went into the city of Verona, which has a Colosseum just like Rome does, and I haven't been to Rome, but I have a feeling that I would much prefer Verona instead of Rome. I really liked Verona. It was very spacious, even though it has a ton of tourists, and yeah, it was just a comfortable place to be, and everything was beautiful. I loved it. And then we drove another few hours further east to Venice, which I never wanted to go to Venice. Like, I have no context or reason to go there. Venezia is the name in Italian, and this bridge across the canals in the city is very famous. I had never had any desire to go there. I have no context of what's good in Venice. But it is now my most hated city in all of Europe, potentially the world, because I just really have no reason to be there. It's too isolated, expensive, crowded, awful, all the things that I don't like, and no reason to be there. But I know so many people that love it, but it's just not my cup of tea. Very glad to have visited, very lucky to have visited, so that I know that I never need to go back. So that was great. And then that same day, we drove into the tiny country of Slovenia, and their population is about 2 million, and it felt completely different the moment you crossed the border. Went from a very Italian vibe to a very Slovenian vibe. It was crazy, and we only got to spend one night there, but we spent it in Radovljica, and it was this teeny town. I don't even remember where exactly it was, but it's just where we could find a hotel. And this town was so quaint, and everyone was super nice, and it was beautiful. And then our main destination the next day was the city of Bled. And I had seen this city and like heard about it originally from like drone footage, those like 4K, like, drone footage of Europe videos that are like several hours long. I watch those sometimes, and Bled was featured there. And this is Lake Bled, and this is the Assumption of Maria Church, and it was just as beautiful as I imagined. We got to swim in the lake for a little bit, and then we ate at the best restaurant, I think top 3 restaurants of this whole trip, in a place called Old Cellar Bled. It was lovely. I can feel myself rambling about all of these adventures, and I'm trying to keep it 1 or 2 facts about each, but Slovenia was such a hidden gem of a country, and I would love to go back again one day. After our day at Lake Bled, we drove into Austria, and we set up camp in a city called Bad Goizen. Not sure if my German pronunciation is accurate there, but very small town in the Alps. And we stayed there for 4 days and did little like outside adventures on the days, like the daytime in between. So we stayed for 1 night and went to this teeny city the next day called Hallstatt. This place also I found out about through drone footage, and turns out it was a really big tourist hotspot for a while. So the locals had a bit of a issue with tourists, but it seems like they've got it managed a lot better now, and I am really glad we got to go to this town because it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Another amazing meal was had there. Yeah, that was a lovely day. I don't think I'd go back, but I'm happy to have seen it. The next day we did 2 cities, and one of them was actually back in Germany because we were only an hour and a bit from the German border, and we went to the town of Berchtesgaden, which is so beautiful. Very, very small city. It has a bit of a dark history, but ultimately the reason why I wanted to go there, because we were close by, is that my grandmother was actually a displaced person living in Berchtesgaden for a number of years after she fled Estonia to flee the Soviet Union, and after World War II ended, that's where she was displaced while she was waiting to find a new country to call home. And then she ended up in Canada, and that's why I'm here now, which is crazy. After Berchtesgaden in the morning, same day we went back into Austria and went to Salzburg, which is the city that is very close to where the Von Trapp house is, where The Sound of Music was filmed. And we did try to go there earlier in the day, but unfortunately it's all closed and not open for visitors anymore. But we saw the fencing around it, or the wall around it. But I also really love this postcard. It's kind of metallic in the background, and I loved Salzburg. I actually loved it. When I first arrived, I was like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't know what there is to see. But I ended up just loving like wandering around there. There's a really nice like palace grounds and a lovely walk by the river, and just the architecture all around is incredible. Got to go into one of the big cathedrals. Lovely. So I actually would like to spend more time there. It was very Baroque architecture that I really, really like. And yeah, I wish I had got some more context before going, but I would like to go back one day if possible. After Salzburg, we went back to Bad Goizen, stayed another night, and the next day we just hung out and went to the river in that town. and it was lovely. I had to work most of that day, so I didn't spend too much time outside. But yeah, that was a really chill day. Stayed another night and then started our drive out of Austria the next morning to a new country, to Czechia, and arrived to the city of Prague, or Praha. And I really like this postcard as well. I thought that one was very cute. And Prague was really special. Even though we only had one night, it was an epic night because our friend from the Netherlands was there with a bunch of his friends, so we got to hang out and have just an epic night out together, and that was so much fun. Prague is literally Vegas without the casinos, and somehow a lot cleaner, even though it's like a big old city. Gorgeous, and like everyone's just there to have fun. It was like bachelor after bachelor party after bachelorette party all throughout the city. It was crazy. Really fun vibe. And now this other thing is not a postcard, but it's so cool, so I had to show you. So Prague is very like Gothic spires type architecture, and they got a thing about dragons there. So there's this dragon card that I found, but look at this. Boom. Slayed. See if you can hear it. How beautiful is that? I just think it's so nice. So I got that as well, but Prague was epic. We got to hang out there a little bit more the next morning before we drove away, and we drove back into Germany and stopped in the city of Dresden. We were really only here for a short time, just for a washroom break, and I wanted to see this really opulent milk shop that I think was featured in one of Wes Anderson's films. But unfortunately, as soon as we walked up there, the lady was very vehemently against cameras, so we decided to skip that one. And yeah, we ended up in a little bookshop because we needed to use the washroom, and the lady working there was so nice. So I bought this postcard from her shop. And Dresden is actually quite large, but we didn't get to explore it really because we were just on our way out. Now there's another little gap in postcards here. Again, because the Netherlands, I keep forgetting to get postcards, but we drove to Weimar in central Germany that night after Dresden. We didn't really do anything in town. We just stayed in a hotel, and then the next day drove all the way across Germany back to the Netherlands. And we stayed right between Utrecht and Amersfoort, where we visited on our 2 more days in the Netherlands. Yeah, I think we did Amersfoort first, Utrecht after, and it was lovely. So cute in both of those towns, but no postcards to show for it, I'm afraid. And then after 2 more nights there, we flew to Copenhagen, but immediately took the train from Copenhagen, Denmark into Malmö, Sweden. I finally made it to Sweden. And we got to stay with a friend in Malmö for 2 nights. And I guess I was so tired / stoked at this point that got no postcards from Malmö. But we had a great time walking around the city, tried some great food, and then on our way out of Malmö, got to go to IKEA. So that was a dream come true. Real IKEA in Sweden, so I had the best time. After leaving Malmö, we drove north about 3 hours along the west coast of Sweden to the city of Gothenburg, or in Swedish it is Göteborg. And this city, I was actually the most excited to visit because there's a very famous amusement park there. And one of the people that I follow on social media that teaches Swedish, she's from Gothenburg originally, and I really like her accent. So I was just really curious about Gothenburg, and I didn't know how I was gonna feel about the city itself. I couldn't really figure out like what the big things to do there were, but after walking around there for 2 days, it was just like such a nice vibe. It was a very big city. It reminded me a little bit of Vancouver, and everyone was so nice, and it was just fun. And we did get to go to Liseberg, the amusement park, on our way out of the city on the 3rd day. And I think that this could be my favorite postcard, just prettiness wise. Göteborg, Sverige. So this one is really special. I loved Gothenburg. I heard it's one of the only cities in Sweden that has a different name in English and Swedish, which is kind of random. Then after Gothenburg, I've got a big gap of no postcards. We went to the city of Jönköping, which is really tiny and on the edge of a lake. Went to a lovely beach there, and I had like a full conversation in Swedish with a lady working at a cafe, because she's one of the very few people that didn't speak much English. I was very spoiled that everyone speaks English so well in Sweden, but with her, she was so nice, and I got to practice speaking Swedish, so we had so much fun. Det var jättekul. And then after Jönköping, we went to a city called Örebro, and I also didn't get a postcard there, but we were there for 2 nights, and I loved it there. It was just meant to be like a city that we could stay in on our way to Stockholm. But it ended up being really lovely. There was like an outdoor like art exhibit all throughout the city, and we scooted around there a bit, and it was lovely. So Örebro, I would recommend very much. And then we made our way to Stockholm. However, we didn't explore the city. We come back to it later, but we were just staying there to fly from Stockholm to Tallinn in Estonia, which was our next country and destination. And as you might know, this is where my family is from. So I'm incredibly biased about Estonia and Tallinn in general. This postcard I chose because I thought it was a really beautiful sort of watercolor style. And this is St. Olaf's Church here. And these are sort of the walls of Old Town in Tallinn. So we got to spend 2 whole weeks in Estonia. We went to a city called Pärnu as well, but I forgot to grab a postcard there, and I had been once before. But yeah, I got to see all my family, and it was just the best time. So I could talk for days about Estonia. But yeah, that was my postcard from there. And while we were in Estonia, we did take the Tallink ferry across the Baltic Sea to Finland just for a day. We didn't even spend a night there, but we went to Helsinki, capital of Finland. And I had done this ferry ride once before when I was really young, but I hadn't been to Finland since that time. So it was very cool. We had amazing weather. We got to go to one of the little peninsula like islands and just walk around the city. It was beautiful. Helsinki. I like this postcard too. I think that one's quite nice. And then after our little visit to Finland and going back to Estonia for a few more days, then we flew back to Stockholm in Sweden, and I got 4 postcards from Stockholm just because like it was only like, I don't know, 30 SEK for 4 of them, which is like $3. And it didn't really have like a price option for just one. So I was like, whatever, I'll just get the 4. So these are the 4 postcards I got from Stockholm. This one just of the city, and another city one like this. But I really like these ones that have these cute little drawings. Stockholm i mitt hjärta. And there's the king and queen in the palace. Slottet, the palace. All these little cute drawings. And then this one I thought was really cute, with Swedish fika, with your coffee and all of your little dessert snacks for fika. Fika is their sacred coffee break time, where you have a coffee and some pastries, and it's the best. So there's a little fika postcard. I love Stockholm. We did one full day in the city and another city day in one of their like large shopping centers, which was very cool. But I got to go to another film location just outside of Stockholm, where Young Royals was filmed, which was a Netflix like teen drama. It's so good. And I got to do a walking tour of Kaggeholm Slott, the little palace there, which was just, what a dream. It was so good. So we had 4 nights in Stockholm before flying out to our very, very last country, the 15th country of this trip, which was to Ireland. And we arrived in Dublin, and I got this postcard of Halfpenny Bridge, which is right in the middle of the city. It's so beautiful there. And another memory I have just down the street from this bridge was, you know, those portals that they have like in one city and another, that just has like a camera where you see what's going on in another place. And Dublin has one with New York, so we got to wave to people in New York on a live feed. That was pretty cool. But Dublin was beautiful. We also were super lucky with weather. And what else did we do? Oh yeah, the first thing we did that day was we did a huge tour of the Guinness Museum. And I don't drink beer at all, but it was so much fun. It was totally worth the entrance price. It was just a beautiful display and like huge inside. Totally worth it. And then our last adventure was to a small city called Kilkenny, and we went to Kilkenny Castle. And for both of these days we had a friend with us, which was so lovely. And yeah, she took us to Kilkenny. We had a great meal, walked around the castle, saw really cute parts of the city, and yeah, it was a lovely time. And on our last day, at this point, we were just exhausted, so we just stayed close to our hotel on our last day, and then slowly started our big trip back to Canada. And here we are, back here after such a long adventure. I think it was like 65 or 70 days that we were away, which is a really long time. I feel very lucky, but I think I would cap it at 6 weeks next time instead of like 9. So it was an incredible trip though, and I hope you liked looking through all the postcards. Which ones were your favorite? I think my favorites are for sure Baden-Baden, Prague, and the Gothenburg one for sure. They're so pretty, but there's so many of those that I like. And have you been to any of these cities, or are they on your wish list? And are there any other cities in the countries that I went to that you would recommend? Because I've really been enjoying the smaller cities. I don't think I'm a big city person, so not interested in Rome or Florence or things like that, but smaller, more quaint, beautiful cities seem to be my vibe. So I want to hear about any adventures you had in the summer as well. And I hope that this was some nice background noise for you to just chill, take it easy. And I'll see you in the next video as soon as I can. If you can leave a like on the video, I would really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. I hope you're getting some really good sleep or having a nice productive work day. And I'll see you again soon. See you again soon.